Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We're learning Mishna Gittin, Perek Gimel, Chapter 3, Mishna Gimel, Mishnah 3. Okay, so now, Hamevi get, somebody's bringing a bill of divorce. That means he's a shliach, he's an agent for the husband. V'avere menu, and he lost it. He lost the get. Mitzvah la'alter, if he finds it right away, kosher, then the get can be used. If he finds it immediately, we can assume that the get he found is the one that he lost. Meaning, he lost it, and right soon after, he found it. So the fact that it happens right away means that, he can assume that this is the get that he was carrying. The imlav, but if he didn't find it right away, pasol, then it's invalid. Now, it's important to know like this. As we've said, the Mishnah, we know that a get has to be written lishma. It has to be written for the man and for the woman. So when he loses the get and he finds another one, the concern could possibly be, well, maybe the get that he found isn't the same get. It's a different get, same names, same place, same time, but maybe it's for somebody else. So the Mishnah says, if you find it right away, you don't have to be concerned about it. If you didn't find it right away, don't know exactly what not right away means, but if he didn't find how much is not right away, but if he doesn't find it right away, then he cannot use the get because he can't assume, although it's the names and everything, he doesn't have the right to assume that's the same get. Maybe it's a different one. Now, the Mishnah, I'll read to you from the notes here. The Mishnah is discussing a case where the get was found in a place where travelers pass by often. So there is a real concern that it was dropped by a passerby. However, if the get was found in a place that is not frequented by travelers, the agent can assume that this is the get he lost, even if he did not find it immediately. Unless we know that there is another couple with the same name, with the same names in the same town. Meaning, where this mission that talks about, did you find it right away, not right away, is talking about you dropped it in a place where a lot of travelers go through. And therefore, it could very well be that it fell from someone else. Okay, but if we're talking about a place where it's not frequented by travelers, then if you didn't find it right away, you can assume that this is the one that you dropped. Okay, so therefore, the situation here of being concerned that maybe it was dropped by a passerby is one that is based on a concern because there are people who pass by. It's frequented by travelers. But otherwise, if it's not frequented by travelers, then even though you find it right away, you could assume that it's yours. Okay? Now to bring the bracket something very interesting here. Unless we know that there is another couple with the same names in the same town, which is really interesting. It's like if we know that actually there is somebody else with the same name in this town where this get is coming from, then we have a problem. Then even if it's not a place that's frequented by travelers, we have a problem because maybe it's coming from that. Maybe it comes from that other person. Maybe, but if you don't know that there's anybody in that same town with the same name, then already, if there are travelers who frequent this area, and there could be somebody with the same name in the same town, and there are travelers who pass by, meaning there are people frequent this area who could have dropped it, then we're going to be concerned. Then we're going to be concerned. But as we say, if it's a place where people travelers don't frequent, then we don't have to be concerned if it's somebody else's get, unless we know that in the same town there's another couple with the same name. Okay, now new case. Actually, a new case, new situation about this guy who lost the get, the shliach who lost the get. Mitza'oi b'chafisa b'deluskama. He found the get in a pouch or in a container. And what's the case here? As they bring down, with a mark on it, it has a siman that enables him to identify the pouch or container as his, even though it's not recognized the get itself. So here it is. He brought a get. He has this get in a container of sorts, right? Or in a pouch of sorts. Now he loses it, but then he finds the pouch. He doesn't recognize the get. He doesn't recognize the get. But he recognizes the pouch because the pouch has a siman. It has some kind of a sign to identify that it's his, that it was his. So if that's the situation, so we say, Imakira kosher. Now, come a second. So if he found it in a pouch or in some kind of a container that has a siman, and the siman, and he recognizes the siman as the pouch of the container that he had, although he doesn't recognize the get. The halacha is that he can use the get immakirai, or if he recognized the get as the one he dropped, even though he found it in the open, kosher. In either case, the get is valid even if he did not find it right away, and he may deliver it to the wife. So here's very interesting. Let me read to you here from the bottom. Since he can identify the pouch or container as his, he may assume that the get inside is the same one that was there when he lost the container. However, if he cannot identify the container, he must be concerned that the container and get he found are not the ones he lost, because it was common for all people to put their documents into these kinds of containers. Okay, so basically, if you recognize the container, you're fine. Or as he says, if you recognize the get as the one that you dropped, so even though you found it there in the open, but again, I'm assuming it's based on what we said before, you find it right away, nonetheless, maybe I should back that out. But if you recognize the get as the one that you dropped, then we say, even though you found it in the open, it's going to be kosher, even if he didn't find it right away, delivered to the wife. So it's very interesting. We get a little bit more clarification here in these cases. And that is this get that you lost, and we say, well, if you find it right away, you can assume it's the get. And if you didn't find it right away, it's not a good get. And we're talking about a place where there are people traveling by, right? Other people traveling by. In a situation where he's in a situation where he recognizes the get, he can tell this is the get. He's got there's some kind of a siman. There's some kind of a sign on the get itself that helps him be able to recognize that this is the get that he dropped. Then even if, again, it had found it later on, he would be able to assume that's the get and deliver it to the wife. Okay. Now, next case. Hamevi get v'dichai zaken oichayla. You're bringing a get, you're a shliach to bring a get for a husband, and when you left his husband, he was very elderly or he was sick. Now, if he dies before this get is delivered, then it's not a good get. Mm-hmm. Even though he appointed the agent to deliver it for him, but if he dies, there's no more marriage for the get to work on. And instead of being a divorcee, she will be a widow, which the difference being, let's say if there's no children, will she need yibum or not? That would be one difference. So she's going to need yibum or not. So we say like this, is she going to need yibum? Is she a divorcee and she can't marry a kayin? Is she a widow or she could marry a kayin? These are all going to be the ramifications of whether this get was delivered before he died or not. So the Mishnah says, you bring a get and you left the person, the husband behind, he was elderly or sick. Excuse me. He can give the get with the assumption that he's still alive. You don't got to worry that maybe he's dead. You can assume that he's alive, and she can accept this get and deal and use the get to whatever the ramifications of the get are. Again, being the ramifications of not needing to wait for yibum, she can marry anybody without waiting. If there are no children, she can assume she was divorced before he died, and there's no yibum, no mitzvah of yibum. Then she can go marry anybody she wants. What is the principle here that allows us to do this? So this is the principle that we call chazaka, which is the legal presumption that conditions have not changed unless proven otherwise. Okay, that's what a chazaka is. That you could assume that this is that you could presume that conditions have not changed unless they have. Meaning, so the guy's alive when you leave, right? Maybe he died. He's not well. He's elderly. Maybe he died, but maybe he didn't. And therefore, we can work on the presumption that things don't change unless we know otherwise, and therefore we can assume he's still alive and deliver the get. Okay, so that's one case. That's one difference over here. That's one case where we're going to be relying on chazaka for the purposes of allowing the get to move forward. Now I have another case. Bas Yisrael and Asuyah Kayin. A daughter of a Yisrael, meaning she's a daughter of a non-Kohen, who got married to a Kohen. Now that she's married to a Kohen, what may she partake of? Truma. Right? She can partake of Truma. And and her husband traveled off to a distant country. He went to a distant country. All right. Does she have now, hey, first of all, traveling was dangerous. Can she eat Kohen, assuming that he's still alive? Or do you have to be concerned and maybe something happened? Says the Mishnah, she could eat the truma, assuming that he is alive. Because of the fact that we don't have to be concerned, we don't have to start concerning ourselves that maybe he died. Now, that's that case. Now again, if he would have died, right? If he would have died, then she cannot eat truma unless she has a living descendant from him.
Oh, you're right.
She has a child. If she has a grandchild, then she could. So we're talking about here that there's no children, right? There's no children to anyway let her eat truma if he dies. And the question is, did he die? And the answer is, Chazaka tells us, you should assume things haven't changed until you know that they have. Yeah. Now, last case. Someone is outside of Eretz Yisrael, and he's sending a sin offering to Eretz Yisrael to be offered for him. Someone's going to do it from an Eretz Yisrael. Okay? So a person is an agent to bring a sin offering for someone who's living outside of Eretz Yisrael, or not outside Yisrael. He's far away from the Beis HaMikdash. He's not near the Beis HaMikdash. And he sends someone to bring it and bring it to him in the Beis HaMikdash. Okay, now actually, Medina Sayyam here means overseas. I would assume it should be the same, whether it's overseas or, in Yerushalayim, but I guess overseas is going to be the more, common case where you're going to send the chatas with someone else. Now, it happens to be the halacha is, if an animal was designated for a sin offering, and then the person who designated it, meaning the person who needs to bring it for a sin offering, dies. What happens to that animal? You let it die. Can't do anything with it. You let it die. So now, I'm bringing this carbon for this guy. Mm-hmm. Do I have to be concerned that maybe he died, and therefore I can't bring the carbon? Says the Mishnah, we offer it with the assumption that he's still alive. Chazaka tells us, we know he was alive when he sent the animal, so we can presume until we know otherwise that the status, that the situation is the same, and therefore you can bring the offering. Okay? Okay, that's what Chazaka tells us we can do. All right, have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.